in my life, working on different campaigns, in organizing, in my work now, I have gotten to know a lot of different coalitions, a lot of different organizations, a lot of different efforts and fights that we've all been in. And one thing I believe is that if you care passionately about an issue, but you are not organized, you are doing your issue a disservice. If you just have ideas and thoughts and how the world should be, you're actually moving the ball backwards. This coalition, Save Service, is one of the best coalitions that I have seen come together in this incredibly difficult year. What you have done, bringing a diverse coalition together, many different organizations. I've seen what circular firing squads look like. I've seen efforts that spend more time talking to each other than talking to the people who know how to get things done. And you guys know how to get things done. You guys are making service and the concept of what you all believe in real, on the ground, where it matters, and I thank you for it. And I'm here to ask you to double those efforts.
And the bass keeps running, running, and running, running.
The first thing I want to underscore is, as excited I am about the organization that you have created, as excited I am about this movement, I want to make sure you understand the threat. There were a lot of programs when the House Republican budget came out. It was proposed that their funding be trimmed. It was proposed that it's time of shared sacrifice. They wanted to eliminate the Corporation for National and Community Service. So you responded to that, and the reason the president, it was incredibly painful to lose programs like Learn and Serve, but the only reason the president was able to secure 94% of the funding we wanted was because of the coalition you built. So my first and just straightforward answer is, we have to focus on what's in front of us right now, which is protecting that 94%, growing it if we can, which will be a direct result of the work that everyone in this room and the coalitions that you lead do. But what I often see coalitions do is when you get past one fight, everyone just sort of goes back to what they were doing. The day after the president signs whatever the FY12 budget is, whether we get you keep the 94 or get you back a little higher, you have to call a meeting in your community the next day and keep it going. So that's what it's going to take.
In this context, there's no disrespect, so when I bust my rhyme.
Absolutely. Now, you can't be partisan. You really ought not be partisan, or you'll ruin the whole deal for everybody who would like to come after you. For real, I'm the most partisan guy in the world. This ought not be partisan. You cannot be partisan. So, but you can make your case. You can show Jeb Bush, governor of Florida, who had huge support among Democrats as well as Republicans, loved AmeriCorps. And I don't speak for Jeb Bush, but he was, I suspect, persuaded, as many other governors were, that wow, these men and women actually do really great work in my state. It really helps. It's a lot cheaper. It saves money. It's more efficient. It's less bureaucratic. It's deeply patriotic. They start their day with calisthenics and the Pledge of Allegiance. So none of that should be anathema to Congresswoman Bachmann.
But most Republicans, or not, even Tea Party people, are not libertarians. They're not kind of committed Ayn Rand supporters. They're deeply skeptical of the role of government in a variety of areas. And so part of the task is really to reassure people about effectiveness. Okay? Not just good intentions, but good outcomes, and telling the stories.
You can get people who are ideological if you show them the ground level truth and the reality. It doesn't mean they'll cast aside their larger ideology, but they will. Mike said this morning about AIDS, and I think it's true also about service. You don't have to win them over to the whole notion of the glory of big government and compact fluorescent bulbs, okay, or whatever else they're mad about. Okay, those stupid toilets, even I don't like them. The low flush toilets, because I got 4 boys and they high flush, man. Okay. I need Niagara Falls for these kids. So I get that. But you can get them to set aside if you show them the ground level truth. And I suspect, I know Senator Santorum has powerful faith. Part of that was that, but I also suspect some of it was seeing, wow, it's not just T-shirts and trash bags and singing Kumbaya. These are like really interesting, cool people doing really valuable work for very little money. And I think that kind of experience really helps. And you're
everybody here, let's get into it.
And I guess the nice thing about members of the legislature as opposed to candidates for president is that all of them have key home state, home district constituencies for service and kind of public idealism.
Right.
And that is the most potent, from my perspective, is if you have, I often believe, having worked on the Hill on and off for 10 years, when you have someone who is a veteran, a major church leader, or a business leader come into your office and want a meeting from your own district, it just has a huge effect.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
I before Clinton, I worked for Harris Wofford. And, Wofford won in 91, that was all good and everything. But in 94, he was defeated by Rick Santorum. In part, Santorum attacking AmeriCorps, saying it was teenagers in T-shirts singing Kumbaya. And if they're volunteers, he sneered, why are they paid? So Harris loses, Rick wins, Bill Clinton makes Harris the head of the Corporation for National Service. Well, guess what happens? This is so Harris. He went to work, and he set aside the partisanship and any feelings he might have had about losing the job he loved. And he went to the man who defeated him, and over time persuaded him that in fact this was completely in concert with Rick Santorum's strong views about patriotism and service. And Senator Santorum went on to become a champion of that program. Enormous credit to Senator Santorum, but I think some to Senator Wofford too, who did not give in to sort of darker impulses, but just continued to work and continued to win them over. And that's your charge. That's what you have to do. You have to be Harris Wofford. Other than that, it's easy.
Everybody here, let's get into it.
You need to make the case, as it was when the Serve America Act was signed in the spring of 2009. That wasn't a Republican issue or a Democratic issue. It was an issue about strengthening the country. It was an issue about strengthening communities, and that's what you guys need to bring back. And so you need to say this to your legislators, you need to say this to your senators, but you know what? The only thing I would advise you, for what it's worth, and I'm very off message, this isn't necessarily what I would say to you as the head of the Office of Social Innovation, but what I can say to you as an American who cares deeply about this, is Hill Day is not tomorrow. Hill Day is every day. Hill Day is 365 days a year. So what you have to do is make a good impression tomorrow, but more importantly is to bring it back and to make sure that every person who's touched by service, every kid, again, every parent, every coach, brings that message out. You guys are multipliers, and you need to make sure that this issue isn't politicized, that this issue isn't bandied about for partisan advantage, but we put people first, and we remain as committed to national service tomorrow and the day after as the first time you donned a red jacket, or the first time you coached a kid, or the first time you, again, had your life touched by service.
Everybody here, let's get into it.